Can I tell you a little bit about my relationship with Rose Festival?
Yeah.
So I've actually always loved parades, but haven't until I moved here, didn't see very many live, like very little, period. And so was always fascinated, rarely saw it, like really only saw it a handful of times until I worked for the university. And we were right there on Burnside Bridge, and so I got to...
And you had to create a float too, didn't you?
Well, that's a little further down the road. First, I got to be the event coordinator for watch parties for high-end donors and board members and like those kind of folks. And so it'd be a fucking great party, and we'd be right there, right where the parade crosses the Burnside Bridge. Is the first thing on the west side, and it was such a fucking big deal. Like, it was so cool, and you can't get a better view, right? Like, it's impossible to get a better view. And then so I did that several years, and then the football team went, they lost the Rose Bowl, but for some reason the Rose Festival's like, they're gonna be the Grand Marshal of the parade, and we're like, they lost. But anyway, and the next year they won, I think, but they made him the Grand Marshal. Well, that means that the U of O has to do a bunch of big stuff to celebrate that. So we became heavily involved, and since I was the person in Portland, I was usually like Susie's like go-to project manager, and I got to be the person who drove the duck around that year, and I took him to the Royal Rosarians thing, and I took him to get knighted by the Queen of Rosaria, and I would travel. I did multiple years. We would just we would get a special pedicab that Susie would have specially decorated, and I'd go right around downtown Portland with the U of O duck, and we'd like go fuck around. Like, he got on news once because we interrupted a news, KGW. We have pictures of him with police. I mean, we'd go hand things out. Like, it was fucking awesome. Yeah. And then we were in the parade every year for a long time. And I was also always in charge of like the group getting together. So like, I mean, just there was a lot that went into that. So I'd be the one to be like, all right, here's the duck truck. You need to be here. You do this. Like, this is what's happening. And so I'd go down to the parade grounds really, really early, so I could go look at all the floats before anything was happening, and I could go say hi to the Budweiser Clydesdales, and then I'd do all that stuff with, I'd go back and get the duck, I'd bring him over in the pedicab, and then...
Is this a person dressed up in the duck costume?
Yes, it's
Poor guy.
Yeah, it's hella hot, but they're used to it because they go to football games stuff. Anyway, so there was just a lot. Ainsley and I got to walk in the parade multiple times with the U of O. She fucking loved that. Yeah, it was a big part of my life. And every year for the night that this thing on the waterfront opens, Susie would always make sure that Ainsley and I had tickets to that, and we would take one of her friends. And
sweet.
Yeah, so I have a million amazing memories, being in the parade, watching the parade, like, yeah. Makes me cry a little bit. I loved it so much. Yeah, I really gotta tell all the stories because there's so many, and it's so cool. And most of what I know, no one but like Susie knows, and so it's a lot. Yeah, a lot of it is like really fucking cool U of O lore,
Yeah, you need to get that shit down.
Yeah, it was so cool. But it was also very secret. I wasn't allowed to let anybody know that I had the duck suit. Like, she's like, don't let anyone see this bag because you will get robbed. Someone will steal that from you. Don't let anybody ever see the duck with his head off. Oh, the other thing, man, I literally had to sign an NDA that we wouldn't talk about this, but it's been long enough. My ex-husband was the duck. Multiple times during the festival, the first that Rose Festival where they were the Grand Marshal, because we couldn't always get somebody up here, but he was tall, and most people who wear that suit aren't tall, and so we were like, why is the duck 7 feet tall? And so I have pictures of him dancing with Ainsley on our deck.